Yeah, it's gone to 12.
We're on, Richard.
Are we on?
We're on.
Are we on?
We're on.
That's pretty awesome. First and foremost, this is amazing. This is unique. This is pretty crazy. Thank you guys for joining us. At the moment, I can see 14 watches. That's basically your mum, your dad. One of our producers has got 14 different email accounts, so that's probably all the 14. No?
So it's good. No, in all seriousness, this is Richard's experiment. So if it goes belly up, take it up with him. Take it up with Richard. But thanks so much for those 14 people, mum, dad. Thanks so much for giving us some time to give us your ear. We're not 100% au fait with how all of this works.
But we're going to learn along the way.
We're going to learn along the way.
As you can see, there is a comment or a chat section on the right-hand side as I'm looking at it. Please shoot us your questions in there. We'll endeavour to answer as many as we can. But obviously, just to introduce ourselves, so I'm Richard and this is Blake to my right-hand side.
Thanks, buddy. Tell you what, you're looking a lot older than on the picture we had, Richard.
Yeah, it's very depressing.
What's happened there?
It's called having children.
Yeah. It'll do it.
Yeah, so we definitely don't look the same. But talking about exciting things, what do you think about the rugby this weekend?
It was a really positive weekend of Australian rugby. I actually watched a hell of a lot of footy, and I really enjoyed it because there was competitive matchups, and I think lots of footy to talk about. I'll be interested if people have got any questions to throw our way. The one thing before we get into the footy, because I really do, I watched a lot of footy, Richard. What I wanted to say though is the CEO of Australian Rugby resigning. It's obviously very big news. I think I don't know.
Is he coming to join us on the podcast one week?
No, and I figured. I was trying to actually distinguish, and I'm a businessman, I was trying to actually distinguish what the difference is between a chairman and a CEO. And
well, you're the man to know, as you from our previous podcast.
So I was Googling before I came in, and the best distinction I can work out is like the chairman runs the Politburo and the CEO is the general secretariat. That's right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's mine. I only understand
Hamish. Who's Hamish? Remember?
Hamish is the head of the Politburo, but I think he was actually a bit of a Stalin. This is the inside scoop. I reckon he was the general secretary.
Can you just confirm you've just said he's a Stalin?
The general secretary and the CEO. I reckon that's what's going on there. I only understand these things in Russian.
Can I just say, I just love this, that Joshua's just tweeted on the side that I'm definitely the chairman, you're the CEO, as you said in our chat here. I'm more than happy for that.
And thanks for adding that, Josh, because that means bagel to me. You run the Politburo, I'm the general secretariat of the general secretariat.
Talking about last week's, you talked about the Brumbies. If they lost, you wouldn't do a podcast, but we are here this week. This was all a ruse to do a live podcast to force you to come in. What were your thoughts of the game? Super disappointed, and we'll get to the questions on the side later on. But what were your thoughts?
I guess my initial thought was how good boys had a crack. They played some really, really good footy. They showed heart when it looked like it was falling apart to get within that bonus point. I think the game didn't suit the Brumbies. I think they need a tidy game. What I mean by that is they need a ref who penalises the breakdown. It was a gangbang. There was about 10 turnovers per side, and I think that suits the Kiwi sides, and it really hurts the Brumbies and their style of play. So I think that hurt them, but I was really pleased with individual performance, the heart, the effort to get within the 7 in New Zealand. That was sort of my initial feeling. I left the game feeling pretty up and about. But then I reflected on it, and to be the cynic again, I kind of feel like if our best team, we had the excuse no Ikitau, no Samu, but if our best team can't beat New Zealand's 4th team, we're not winning the Super Rugby.
What do you think?
And if our best team can't beat New Zealand's 4th team, we're certainly not winning the Bledisloe Cup. That's how I feel.
It'd be interesting to know, and please comment in the chat there as well. I think it is a concern. There are obviously caveats in there. The fact that you were missing a couple of the main players on the team for obviously various reasons. But it is still a worry. I think but coming home, you're still second in the table. There's still a chance to win the Super Rugby Pacific competition, having that home semi-final. I think there are some good signs. I think Corey Toole continues to show that he is lightning in space. He's very elusive. I think the pack again performed really well and stood up. Won the contest at a few, for the majority of the game as well. So there were a number of strengths along the way. But I think to when we look at it, it's the results business, and ultimately, you get a bonus point, but a lot you still lost by 5.
And I almost feel like Samu and Ikitau is a lovely out. You don't have to own it because we're missing 2 of our stars. Mate, you've got the YouTube there. That's fucking 100. You've got that there. You've got the questions. Things are popping up, Richard. I can't see it. What are people saying?
Well, I think it's a good question by Hugh. Said, is Jim putting his hat in the ring for the Rugby Australia CEO? I think we need to be finally honest. He's not really on his honeymoon. He has been using ChatGPT to actually craft it.
He's been manoeuvring. He's been wheeling and dealing. Marinos is out because of Jim.
Absolutely. He's been plotting his every move to try and get into the upper echelons of
rugby.
And
I'll tell you what, the C word's coming to Australian rugby. Culture.
Oh, okay, good. Culture. Just wondered because we know where Jim can go sometimes. A couple of other things as well. Long-time listener, Nelson York. I think a former Queensland correspondent. Yeah, I think it was actually Nelson York.
At one stage.
Yeah, I think so. He says, if Brum's are Australia's best super team, are the Rebels the next best? And I'll add a caveat to that. Obviously, the Tars won, but played very average at the weekend. So would you say on the whole the Rebels are the second best?
Would you? I was doing the chatting before. You tell me, Richard. What do you reckon?
I actually think if they put together a whole 80 minutes, which seems really difficult. I mentioned last week the fact that the benches or the impact players are nowhere near the same standard as their obviously starting 15. If they tighten up some of that and get more production from their bench players, I think, they actually are. I think the Tars play well in spurts and stuff and fits, and I think the Force do that the same as well. The Reds are so inconsistent. So I think at the moment, yes, I think they probably are. The results don't mention that, but maybe I'm looking at it with 2 rose-tinted glasses and saying the fact that they've made the biggest jump probably from previous years. The fact that they've got their players.
The Tars of last year.
Yeah, exactly.
They can do no wrong.
And maybe I'm blinded by that. The Tars obviously have the personnel to be able to be the second best team in the Australia, but they just can't put it together enough. And just the execution for them at the moment is poor. They can't finish.
I'll go on a Tar rant in a minute.
Oh, that's outstanding. I'll join you in that as a Tars fan. But I would say probably yes. I would say they are, but statistics suggest otherwise.
I'm not. Look, I would say, just looking at it objectively, yeah, they probably deserve that spot. That they look like they know how to play. They look like they know who they need to get the ball to when they're doing second man, when it gets to Hodge, what Kellaway's role is at 15. They genuinely look like a well-coached, well-structured machine. Carter Gordon is super exciting. Hodge and Kellaway are in form. There's a lot to like about the Rebels, but I haven't seen 80 minutes. And I think you said that before. Even this weekend, they had Moana Pacifica, and they didn't show up. They didn't show up for 80. They showed up for 60. So I haven't seen that. And then my caveat to, they're the second best team is, okay, playing in New South Wales. Who are you backing? I think I'm still backing the Tars.
Yeah.
So I think the Rebels deserve that spot. But I'm still backing the Tars.
But I know, but it's that game of, what are we looking at, team or individuals? Because on any given day, due to the brilliance, in inverted commas, of the Waratahs players, they can pull it out. But team, collectively, I think the Rebels are probably there at the moment. But to be the second best team in a competition where second best Aussie teams means you're probably about the 8th best team in the competition is probably not the best thing to shout about at the moment.
What else you got?
Well, something that does excite me, Abby says there's been some talk of a player draft in future Super Rugby. AB's playing for Oz teams, Wallabies playing for New Zealand teams. How good would that be? Well, I have to say, from a product standpoint point of view and from a competition point of view, that would be amazing. I would sign up for that, whether the Wallabies are the product in Australia, and ultimately you want to get those combinations playing together on a more consistent basis, because that's, you want to win and you want to be successful on the international stage. So it would affect that. However, from a product point of view, definitely get the rights, mate. Get the vertical leap going, the 40-yard sprint. Get combine going first, and let the draft out there. And I will be down at Moore Park watching the bottom team getting the first pick next year. That would be all time.
Yeah, I reckon we might sound like, Chairman McLennan's the General Secretary of the General Secretariat fanboys, because he's been on this podcast. But for me, it is a no-brainer. This comp is floundering. It is flopping. And we're in a professional age where the nerds, us, people love drafts. They love fantasy team. They love all that nerd bullshit. People love that shit, mate. And I think this is just another no-brainer element. Give the fans something they want. Give something exciting, something entertaining, and then even the competition out. That is my total in favour of it.
Could you imagine Hamish McClellan just walking out with a board with the shirt like that they do in the NFL draft, the number one pick for the 2024
He would do
draft?
It with the gulag out the back. It'd be great. All for it. Totally love it. I think the common sense approach is two issues. One, what the fuck's in it for New Zealand? Why would you do that if you're in New Zealand? You have a mortgage on dominating the competition. You have, we know all that Darwin shit about
evolution.
The teams. No, not evolution. I'm mixing it up this week. Is it Ben Darwin? He's the guy who's talking about the team, the continuity.
Darwin's evolution.
We're doing Russian history this week.
Right,
Science next week.
Okay, sorry.
That idea of continuity of your squad. Most of the All Blacks coming from this team. They're in a setup, they're in a system, it's nationalised. And so if I'm New Zealand, other than there's 6 people at the stadium, other than that, I don't know what's in it for you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Charles Dollar said at the bottom, would a draft not just lead to less spots for Australian rugby league rugby players? I would say absolutely yes, but I wonder whether you could put a caveat that you've got a squad of 30 and maybe there's a 15-15 split or something like that. There's got to be
or the Aussie teams need to run on 10 Aussies. Or if they're match day 23, it needs to be 13. 12.
It would be many years ago the Champions League, but right.
Yeah, I used to play soccer manager.
You're only allowed to have a certain number of overseas players.
You're talking my football manager days, Richard. Those signings were a big deal, but it can't be 2 or 3 or something tokenistic. It's got to be. You got to rip this competition open and do it from there. But yeah, there'd be less Aussies in it. And what's the issue, mate? I'm not being a dick, but there are guys.
It's first time for that, then.
There are guys playing Super Rugby that shouldn't be playing grade footy.
No.
That I played in Colts and weren't that good.
Did you tackle them?
Absolutely not. But do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't think the talents.
No, I get that.
And so, hey, if there's 10 less Aussies in the comp and the standard of the comp's higher and games are competitive, hook it to my veins.
Now, I'm not sure, talking about the standard of the competition, I'm not sure whether Landon Slater is being funny or because he's talked about getting the SA and Argentinian teams back in. I'm hoping he's trying to be funny, but absolutely not.
Nah, good riddance.
Yeah, no.
Don't get me wrong, I loved it for that.
Don't you have a Hagiwara's jersey?
Yeah, no, mate, cherish it.
When was the last time you wore it?
I'm a lot fatter, Richie. That's a tough bit.
Please, you can compare us now to our opening slide from a minute ago.
Yeah.
It's true, man.
Shirt's baggy. I'm shredded underneath. What else you got for me?
So a few others actually, which is great. Which is good. Much I'll say.
He's better than Jim.
Yeah, who's Jim again? Has he ever done a comeback? I'm not sure.
Hopefully not.
So there's a few in here. Says, is Carter Gordon the Wallabies long-term fly half we've been missing? Look, I think we are such bandwagon jumpers that I think it would be hard not to jump on that bandwagon right now, and for many reasons. He's the first 10 in a while for Australia who's actually defended in the 10 position. He actually can tackle.
Yeah, he's quite physical.
He's quite a lot more physical than some of the other 10s. He plays a lot flatter than the others. I think Noah played very deep, and that was beneficial when you have a Karevi in your team, but when you don't have that kind of caliber player behind, you need that guy to play it flat. And I think, but again, he's got to do it for 80 minutes. I think his decision-making has been good for a Super Rugby season.
Body of work, Richard.
Yeah, great body of work. We've obviously, he is probably the best. He's probably the best 10 and probably the long-term project. I think both of us said he should be playing in that Rugby Championship, but probably won't.
I think it's what's really interesting is I think for this international season, Eddie needs to win straight away, and he has got a very tough assignment with no Pacific Islander team or half-string Northern Hemisphere team coming down. South Africa in South Africa. he needs to win week 1, and then he's got a World Cup in France. You are picking someone experienced to someone who knows. I think it's as clear as day that that's Quade Cooper. I just think it is. And then
we have a vote? We've got 19 people watching right now. Who agrees that it should be Quade?
Whether it should or shouldn't, I think it will be.
Okay.
And I definitely think it should. I want that on record. But it will be Quade Cooper. And I think arguably it'll be Bernard Foley will be the backup. Leading point scorer in the Japanese second division. He's in the Zoom meetings. And he's geriatric at this stage. Bernard will do. I reckon for a World Cup.
Can I just say, Adam Leonard? It's just said Quade, man. That's just terrible.
He gets it.
Yeah, he definitely.
So I think it is Quade and Bernard Foley this year, and I think Carter Gordon comes along for the trip, and if barring no injuries, he gets some minutes somewhere, and that's fantastic. And maybe he deserves to be there starting, but I just don't think he can risk it this year. It's not a Bledisloe. It's not playing in South Africa, and it's not the World Cup. Okay, that's where he's not getting his minutes. It's not good for him. What's fascinating is as soon as this World Cup year's over, you're never picking Quade Cooper or Bernard Foley again. You've got a line series. You've got 2 years to have a consistent 10 for that. That's when it gets exciting because I actually think 9 at this World Cup is Nick White, 10 is Quade Cooper. I think as soon as this World Cup's over, it's neither of those blokes.
No.
And your whole team is linchpinned on those. So, yes, I think Carter Gordon is the front runner for that spot, which I think is the Lions Tour and then the Home World Cup, which is an even bigger deal. So I think that's his trajectory where he's the front runner now, but he's got a year of consistency to show that it should be him. Because I think if you look at everyone else, Edmed injured, Harrison injured, Liner not getting the minutes, Donaldson playing like shite, Pasatoa injured, Noah going backwards at a rate of knots. You're having that revisionist look at him saying, okay, was he the beneficiary of the Brumbies setup rather than the next 10? And that's a bit harsh, but it's hard not to have that lens at the moment. So that's the future for Carter Gordon, but I don't think it's this year. I think this year is about minutes.
So talking about the future, Rugby Fixation has put down a solid uncapped 15. He's asked, or she has asked, who makes the 2023 World Cup from the 15 above? So I suppose we'll ask you the question twice. Who makes the squad and who makes the starting 15?
I love this shit, Bart. So this one nerds, mate. Nerds love this.
I don't know. Do you want to start 15 through to 1 or 1 to 15?
I feel bad that you're asking. I don't have the laptop. You got the laptop.
All right, I'll go 15. So we'll go both of them. We'll go 15 and also squad. So Jorgensen is the 15.
So mix it. I'll answer the first one first, then you answer. Swap it up.
Oh, you're in charge, are you? I'm the chairman, mate. Oh, really? It's like that, is it? All right, all right, play on, deputy. Jorgensen. So Max Jorgensen of the Tars. I don't think he makes the 15, but I do think he makes the squad. We know the fact that Eddie loves a bolter, etc., but he's going to go through peaks and troughs purely because of his experience. And the thing is, he'll have the highs or have the lows. And when we get to the World Cup, we need to protect him. And he might even go just in the squad just for experience in inverted commas and not actually ever played.
Oh, sky's the limit for this kid. I'm going to say something a bit controversial right now.
More so than Quade?
Right now, sky's the limit for this kid. He's going to be a Wallaby. Maybe a future captain, yada, yada, yada. But right now, he's a poor man's Andrew Kellaway. And there's only room for one of those.
So let me just get this straight. You've advocated for Quade to be the starting 10, and you've said that Max Jorgensen is a poor man, Andrew Kellaway.
Right now,
can you just say this is 7:49?
Let's go.
That's why you're still the CEO.
So his future, sky's the limit. I think this year he could get minutes like Carter Gordon, preparing for that post World Cup cycle. But right now, I see him as a similar player. And right now, Andrew Kellaway is more complete. To
quote Nelson York, that's harsh, man.
Yeah,
that's harsh. That's a shame. This is going through it. Your head or Peach? You go.
No and no.
Yeah, for both of them. I think Peach has had a really good season actually for the Tars. I think
underrated.
I said a couple of weeks ago that he'd had a good season, but
not one spot we're short on.
No, it's a no for both of those.
He's got a mortgage on one wing, so you've now got 8 blokes competing for the other wing.
Yeah, and I think there's enough utility players that can fill in those, or even more X Factor players than both of those. But they've had a really good season, and they're both players that you would love to have in your franchise.
Exceptional Super Rugby players.
Yeah, absolutely. Fluke.
think a lot of this kid. I think very, very impressive. But no, I think it's Ikitau and then Parise.
Yeah. Well, what about the squad? 23-man, the 30-man squad, or 23?
Not at the World Cup.
Yeah.
I'm saying everyone's fit.
Yeah, no, I'm an agreement.
He'll get a swag at some camps.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you say that the wingers are the ones that are obviously you've got great stocks. I actually think the centres, if everyone's fit, I think that there's a plethora of players that you could pick in there, and particularly with the way that Eddie wants to play, we all believe
a lot about physical.
Yeah, I think as much as he's had a really good season, breakout kind of season for him, really, I just don't think he gets any of them. It's a little bit early for him.
But again, he's sky's the limit.
Yeah,
Future Wallaby captain, like he's a gun.
Yep. Hamish Stewart. No, I'm in line with both of those two.
Good footy player.
Yeah,
great
very
Super
good.
Rugby player, but he's miles behind.
Yeah. Corey Toole.
Mate, I'd love to see someone with that. He looks like, on a field of professional athletes who are all sprinters, he looks like he's in fast forward. It's pretty cool to see. It's Brian Habana-esque, like just electric. I love it, but no.
I would say yes, because there is something in life that you are scared of on a rugby field. Not only the guy who's 150 kilos running at you, I get that, but when that's scary.
It's largely that.
It is. But a guy who is that quick, that's something you can't teach. That's electric. That's something where you could put him on the pitch and he might make something happen out of nothing. Find that space, make a tackle, and with a game that could be so close, he could make a difference. I'm not saying he's going to become a world beat or anything, but there's a chance. I reckon he'll go in the squad.
Yeah, I just think we're too stacked there.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're right.
Too stacked there.
Going through some of the others, Carter Gordon, I would say yes.
Yeah, he gets minutes.
Yeah, Lonergan, yes.
Yeah, Eddie likes him.
Gamble, no, not for me.
No, last year was his year. He hasn't been quite up to it.
No. Well, it's been harsh because he's not actually played consistently. He's been off the bench a lot for the Tars, though. Wilkin, it's a no for me.
Oh, you know what? I was trying to, on the weekend, I think both Wilkin and Fraser McWright have closed the gap on Michael Hooper, who had an outstanding weekend. And I was trying to work out who's number two. And until Fraser McWright scored 700 tries on the weekend, I was thinking maybe it's Wilkin right now.
Yeah, still Fraser McWright. Body of work he has. He's just, and even in the Europe season, I think he's the heir apparent, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm big on Wilkin.
Okay.
I think he's a game changer.
Angus Scott?
No.
No. Hosa?
No, it's so stacked in the row.
Yeah. I would say no too. I think the quality that there is at the moment, if everyone's fit, he's a very good player. He's had a good season. About
this question we've got asked here is it's a World Cup year.
Great question.
With a new coach.
Great question.
But I think all of these players in the next 2 years, yeah, they probably all feature at some stage.
And you talk about the fact that the second row is absolutely great stocks in there. I don't know. There's one question in there talking about having to rank the second rowers at the moment, or the locks at the moment in Australia. You can think of many years gone past where it would have been very easy to just name one or two, just because there was a dearth. But right now, the athleticism shown by them, the ability to do the hard work and to do the grunt work has been really impressive.
Nick Frost is a fucking freak.
Yeah, he runs, apparently, to quote you, very lanky too as well.
He runs lanky. He's 2.09 meters. He's as fast as a back. He does all the grunt work. He's a gun at the line out. Mate, he is a rock star.
Just a rock star.
Absolute rock star.
We've just got a few more. So Canham at second row, Van Neek at prop.
No.
Murphy. Ooh, I actually think yes for Murphy. I think there's too many question marks about the hooker position still at the moment in Australia. And I'm not necessarily saying that he is going to be the best, but I feel like because of the shortcomings and no one nailing their flag to the mast, I think he could actually get in that squad. And I think he's having a good season as well.
I think it's a really interesting one because I think Eddie's made it clear, and he's even gone out and said it. He wants a big, fat, ugly prop. But in Australia right now, we've got a whole heap of skillful, almost 7.5 hookers. Sorry, hooker, not prop is what I meant to say. So like Parecki's the clear front runner right now, but I don't think that's the hooker Eddie would pick. I think it would be Fainga and Ulesi would be the top of his list, but they're just not performing.
And that's the thing.
Whereas the Pollard, the Lonergan, the Parecki, these guys who have all this footy talent, they look like halfbacks. We've had an extra protein shake.
They're pretty good, though.
They're very good.
If they're running at me, I know they're not 150 kilos. I would also be scared.
Get out of there. Get out of Dodge.
But also in terms of the last one was Shook. He's had a really good season, but I just think he's made his run a little bit too late.
He'll get minutes after the World
Cup. But
he
will do, absolutely. Love some of these questions that are coming in. And you know what? There's a quote coming down here. The Gregory Dodwell. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Gamble has been injured, but that's obviously impacted on his ability
Has he had that?
Come on, man. Absolute ability to play, but even when he's come back from injury, I don't think he's set the world on fire. Jack Norton said, "Vylon or Bolter for mine." That's a pretty good shout as well. From what we do. Henry Clark says, "How many overseas picks would you take to France?" That's France, by the way. And how many do you think Eddie will get?
I don't know. I don't know if the rules have changed. If it's still the three, I think it's Quaid, Corabetti, Skelton.
No, I don't think he will be Skelton. You reckon? You reckon he's
Yeah, I reckon he is.
Okay.
If it's bigger than that, does Foley get in the mix?
Well, to go to your point, you said the backup was Foley. So
that's what. Yeah, depends. It depends how many you're dealing with here.
So you got Karevi is a nailed on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Karevi, Corabetti, Quaid. And 3, and then Skelton if you can get 4, and then is Foley 5.
It's interesting, like Matt Reed's just said Skelton, and I don't think for me Skelton's the option. I think even in the autumn internationals up in North, I just don't think he's as dynamic and effective. And I think as we just said, the second row Australia are well versed in second row. My daughter's going to be an Aussie fan, so I have to do it at some point. The fact is that they're well versed in that position.
No, I just think his impact half an hour to go is too significant. It's too big of a deal. He plays in France. Did you see on the weekend he got named?
I definitely agree. By the way, Peter Thompson said game is one in the type 5. Absolutely agree with that. But still not think that Skelton's the option.
No, I think he is off the bench. Yeah. Whether it's coming on at 6, 8 all a row, it just is a wrecking horse. But on the weekend, he was named with that other bloke who was an Aussie too. I mean, he was 137 kilos. Imagine the two of those.
Yeah.
Imagine. But obviously, it doesn't translate to international rugby, the pace.
But if
fuck that.
Yeah, but even Adam Coleman, who's over at London Irish, I believe it is, and they're having some financial trouble at the moment, London Irish, and he could potentially come back into Super Rugby.
And you've got Hoskins.
Yeah, so there's
not playing, Phillip who's not playing.
I think
Swain, Neville, Frost.
Yeah, I just think there's better options for it. And you know what? Again, yes, Skelton is playing well in La Rochelle, but just the fact that what we saw and what I saw up in Europe, maybe it was an anomaly, and maybe he wasn't utilised.
I think that last game he played, you were like, that's it. That's what he can offer. Anyway, that's what I said. When can I whinge about the Tars?
I think we're doing a whinge now. Please jump in on board in the chat and whinge about the Tars.
Can
I just say first,
you go, please.
as a we're both Waratahs fans here. Absolutely. You put it out on Twitter sphere last time that if the Tars won, you'd be a fan, and so you bleed blue now. Yes, it's frustrating. Go back to the point, the fact that there's no execution, there's no precision. To your point, which we talked about the other day, they seem overcoached. They're trying to do everything perfect in inverted commas rather than going back to natural instincts and trying to play what's in front of them. They're trying to think 2 steps beforehand rather than focusing on the thing that they need to do to elaborate on to allow the next 2 things to happen. And I think for the Tars moving forward, they just need to get back to basics. Shelve the kicking. I know they tried to get behind the Highlanders.
Fuck it off.
Yeah, they tried to get in behind by trying to kick to the corners, but the execution was poor. Like, just hold on to the ball, go through the phases. You've got enough. To Peter's point earlier on, it's one in the type 5. It's even at Super Rugby level. But they need to change something. They would just kick the ball away so many times away, and there is a chance that the Tars go up to Townsville this week and lose to the Reds if they could play the same, because the lack of execution really worried me for the amount of talent that they have. We were swinging off, obviously, DC last year, but we have to really look, he's the coach. He needs to stay the coach, and he's made great improvements. I'm not saying get rid of him, but the Tars need to come together a little bit more at the moment.
I think this is purely a perception thing, and I'm sure, you spoke to any players, they'd never agree with this. But you get this feeling, I get watching them, is that they buy their own bullshit. They expect that they are superstars.
Yeah.
So they have their crack at the line. You know, we'll give it to Priest and a bit of room. We'll give it to Jorgensen out wide. And they expect to score.
Yeah.
And when they don't score and they fuck it up, they turn it over because the execution's off. Someone drops the ball, the offload doesn't get a hand. They switch off. It's like they're training unopposed. Like, shit, we'll try again. And they've already conceded a penalty now because they switched off, or they've already conceded 50 meters on the counter-attack. I feel like when they make a mistake, there's no heads up. Like, I feel like they're playing rugby union, they're not playing footy. So what I mean by that is they've done too many unopposed training sessions where everyone's moving in their pods. The back line are doing their...
They don't play what's in front of us.
Yeah, there's just no...
thing. Yeah.
And then there's no grunt. When it's not going your way, there just seems to be no bite down on the mouthpiece and do a few one-ups because nothing else is working right now. Get your centre to just bash it forward and see where you're at. They look like they expect to break the line easily. Whereas, you look at a Rebels, they look like they know it's hard work. So you've got to string phases together. And, hey, the kick's on, kick. If it's not on, run. Don't have this pre-planned, our text to kick. And in this part of the game, we do this. They look so drilled.
Yeah, no.
And then they expect it to be easy because they're constantly training unopposed. And it's purely perception, but that's how it looked. And I think that's what shits fans. That idea that they look soft when it's not going their way.
I couldn't agree more. You just elaborated on my point. I couldn't agree with you more. The fact is that it's too contrived. It's too structured in inverted commas. It's too... Let's just go out and play some footy. And yes, we need to have our pods going here, but we have to play on the fly. We have to implement the strategy, absolutely, but the strategy has to be adaptable to the game.
Like, as good as Jed Holloway is, and I rate him, and he's a gun, he's always setting up for the next run. Sometimes put you in the fucking ruck.
Yeah.
The amount of rucks Gordon has to clean out because all the forwards are pissing about, or the times Donaldson kicks it or Gordon does a box kick when they're all set up.
I think
it's so
and the task can hide behind the fact that Parise didn't start the season that well. I don't think
he's coming into his stride now.
He's coming into his stride right now. He is absolutely killing it. Okay, the try that he scored, the continual leg drive to get over it, the line breaks. He is showing. He's putting a lot of the players in that Wallaby 23, 30 man, whatever squad we want to pick. He's putting some real. He putting some real pressure on them, so he's doing really, really well.
Yeah, and I think come on here and have a whinge. They won. They beat a Kiwi side. You take it, right? You take it and you march forward. But it wasn't a lovely watch.
No,
you didn't leave it thinking, this team's building.
It's interesting. Greg Dodwell again mentioned if too structured outcome, they lack cohesion and execution. And you're absolutely right. But I think cohesion comes from knowing the plan and being able to do it without thinking. That autonomy to be able to do it. Whereas I feel like they're doing it so forced that it's not cohesive. They're little elements that are separated or discrete rather than one harmonic.
Yeah, I feel like with the Brumbies are clearly very structured, but they just get on with it when someone drops the pill. All right, back on with D now. Like, they don't expect it to come easy. They just hang in the fight. And when they get their opportunity, let's go back to our structures.
And the point is that Weasel also just mentioned it was an exciting game to watch live. Absolutely. And from a Tars fan, we're in a results business. We get the win. Absolutely. We're still in the fight to finish in in that top. We're sixth at the moment. There's the top five and there's a chasm between the top five and the bottom ones.
And the individual players that the Tars have.
But there is an opportunity to keep going. The problem is though, when you finish, say, sixth, did you just going in an away game and you're looking to get hammered probably in the next one? But from a product point of view, in terms of coming down to the last moment and get that, you're on the edge of your seats. And when you're at the game and we went, you're really involved in it. You're not actually maybe at home when you're sitting on the TV watching it. You become a bit more hypercritical of it rather than just enjoying the spectacle that it is out in front of you. But the Tars itself, it'll be a big game. From I've already said they could go up to Townsville and lose this week. It's a huge game, and the Reds did what they needed to do. And I know they went down early, but they never really looked like losing that game after they got into their stride.
Your Force disappointed me a little bit. And that's not to take any away from the Reds. But having watched the Force, I don't expect more. I really did expect more. And I just thought the Reds just pumped it. Pumped it. Other than the first 10 minutes, they didn't give the Force any oxygen. They were just on them the whole game. And it was just honestly domination. It really was. At the start of the game, they just pumped it.
It really was. And look, obviously the result wasn't indicative of the gap between the two. If you look at the game earlier on, what was it, in Melbourne, where it was the scoreline blew out, whatever
the
it
Reds
was.
just pumped them twice now.
That's what I'm saying.
Number.
It was interesting after the game. I think it was Fraser Wright or someone said that they love playing for Thorn, and it was at least they know, everyone knows now they're on the same. Everyone's aware, and maybe that's the best thing for them, that they know that they're not counting down the last game, but the noise that was around, what's happening.
Subtext to that though, it's like when you feel a bit sad for the coach, he's not revving the change room up, is he? There's no belief there. My subtext to that is we feel bad for the bloke, and we felt bad for him for a while. I don't know. It's a bit of that lame duck thing. Maybe they got up for this week, but are they up at Wednesday's training still? I don't know. I think they're in limbo. They're in a tricky spot.
Talking about a team that is not in a tricky spot at the moment, I think we need to jump across. I know I'm missing the Drua and the Blues, and we'll come back to the Pacifica and Rebels. But how good was that Chiefs Crusaders game?
Yeah, it was a cracking game.
How good? We mentioned the word chasm, gap, difference, whatever it is, the whatever metric you're using, the difference between the Tars and the Highlanders game and the Chiefs and the Crusaders, they were polar opposites from the quality that was on display at that.
That was a test match. And it's lame and it's cliche, how good are the New Zealand derbies. But really, it was the first game in a long time in front of a full stadium. It was Chiefs going for 9 on the trot against the side in Super Rugby. I thought the Crusaders were really unlucky the first 20. I thought they could have got out 15 in front, 20 in front, put this thing to bed. Just couldn't execute in key moments. And then the Chiefs just kept fighting back. It was a barnstorm.
Did you reckon it was kind of like roles reversal? Like in previous years, like the Chiefs would have all the possession and all the territory,
not get it done.
Exactly, but it was like roles reversed this time.
And I know you've often said on this podcast, Damian McKenzie not the 10. He's controlling the game, man. And he won't be at the World Cup. I think he will be the next 2 years. He's just signed on to 2025. I think he will be the All Black 10 with Mwanga going overseas. Barrett, not the youngest bloke. I think.
Did you say post World Cup?
Post World Cup.
I agree.
Post World Cup, McKenzie will be the All Black 10.
Yeah.
But it'll take some courage to make him the 10 now. But he's the form 10. And it's not this week. It's been 9 games. And it's not like in previous seasons, even though he's a fullback. Fucking outstanding rugby player.
Oh, unbelievably so. But I think we need to realise also that the Crusaders had numerous injuries across this year.
Oh, they'll win the comp.
And the thing is, that's what I was just about to say. Like the Chiefs they win by 10, and they played what a game. If we have a Chiefs Crusaders game in the final again,
I still back the Crusaders.
I still back the Crusaders.
I know I backed them on the weekend.
It's just and they are such a great system,
and they just build, mate. They just build into the year, drip feed the All Blacks back in. But you got to give it to the Chiefs. They played 10 All Blacks. The Crusaders weren't lying down, man, and the Chiefs got it done. And when you watch that game, top of the table clash, man. Super Rugby is not dead. But the problem for Australian fans is we don't see those. You're never going to see 2 Aussie teams at the top of the table. I think if you did, you'd get 40,000. We're just so far off that.
You know what? It would be exciting maybe in a year's time, 2 years' time, 5 years' time that we were sat here going, what a game between the Tars and the Reds it was. What a test match intensity.
And us and half the people on this chat right now grew up when that was the case. When the Brumbies were at the top of the table and Tars were 4th, and the game in Sydney, it was a sellout. That's why we're all addicted to it, because that's what we grew up on. Any other barnstorming questions there, Richard?
One question from Josh. Joshua said, Richard, who is the most Spursy Super Rugby and international rugby team in your opinion? Well, to be fair, I'd rather not talk about my football team. All right. Suddenly you become an expert, have you, of the team?
I know a thing or two.
No, really. You'll know that they're 5-0 down after 21 minutes. I think the Rebels have to be. And like, there's so many years we've sat here going, yeah, the Rebels are going to do really well. Yeah, they've got a squad. They got the players. They're going to make a difference this year. And then they just disappoint. It's just outrageous. So thanks, Josh, for ruining my evening, reminding me that the Spurs suck right now.
Love it, Josh.
Yeah, all right. A couple of other questions along the way. Adam Ladden says, selling any more podcast shirts. I think Jim's all over that.
Yeah, talks to Jim.
Yeah, I think he's not only going to be CEO, but he's also going to be procuring some new suppliers for whilst he's overseas.
He's a business. I just started watching Succession. I know I'm 5 years late, but I feel like Jim is like Roman. if anyone watches Succession, that he's our Roman, he's our CFO. We'll make Jim our CFO.
Okay, awesome. Can we have that as a quote, please, at 10 past 8, which is pretty awesome. Charles Delagorsich just mentioned Nick White, I'm assuming that is, to the Rebels next year. That'd be a good shout.
That'd be a great shout. I think Lawrence is playing some great footy. I think Tuttle has all the nous, but he's a bit slow. Yeah, and I think if you look at the halfback stocks, what's it? Leo Weissel finds is his name for the Force.
Sorry, I just got distracted by the fact that someone's just said that you're definitely a Connor, which is funny.
That is quite good. I know, I'm a Greg. I think he's killing
it. That's also funny. Someone just said that too. That's funny.
He's killing it at the Force. Tate's killing it at the Reds. Killing it. Like, I think so highly of them. You've got Lonergan coming through the Brumbies. You've got Gordon at the Tars. He's the only one who's not a young man. Where's Nick White? Where's the spot for him? Where's the spot for him? So find some cash, Rebels. You got Tupou, you get Nick White, you got Carter Gordon. You have a very fucking good team.
Just one thing. I'm just going to go back through some of these questions. Chris Hanna said the set is impeccable. Yeah, absolutely is. Mate, this is all time.
It's all Dylan.
Yeah, shout out to Made in Katona. They have looked after us a treat. No, it's pretty awesome. We've gone through pretty much most of these questions, even if we haven't mentioned them explicitly. I think we've covered a lot of them. Nathan Cleary was a shout for one of the 10s. It'd be interesting to see how he played in a game of rugby, whether he'd be able to do it.
Yes, he would.
Yeah.
Yes, he absolutely would. He's a generational rugby league player. He'd be right.
This is funny. Mark's question was, has the rugby season started? That's funny. Either way, I like that.
Yeah.
But I really want to just say, just before we finish up, really love the interaction and love doing the chat today. I think the question that's just come in from Blake, who said, is it? He said, who is the starting Wallabies? That's a big question. That's a big question.
Yeah. I'll do the back line.
Go on then.
It's more settled. I think it's Nick White, Quade Cooper, Simon Creevy, Lenny Katau. Back three gets tricky. Corabetti is one wing.
John Earls medalist.
I think that all picks itself. The Wallaby back line.
Hang on. So who's the other winger and the fullback?
That's where it gets tricky. And I think, Nwanu Tuasi comes close. I think Reece Hodge comes close. The Navalu will be in the conversation with Eddie Jones, but he might be a bit light for life with Corabetti. It's probably Wright and Kellaway if you're looking for the complete footballer who can slot into playmaker, who can kick off both feet, who can diffuse a high ball. Nick Wright, though, it's rocks and diamonds. Tom Wright, sorry. He's killing it. It's more diamonds than rocks this year, but there's always a rocks moment in the game, and that's a lot to carry in international rugby. But plus probably the back line.
I think maybe I'm reading too much into this. The fact that he has played wing for pretty much all of his career.
He's a good fullback.
But he is very good fullback. But it's been explicit this year because of the departure of Banks overseas. I think with him moving into 15, I think he will be the starting 15.
Callaway's playing 15 too, and I think he's a little better on the high ball.
Yeah, which means that potentially I don't think he'll play both of them. I agree with your point about the total football and the idea of being able to work as a back three, kicking games more rounded. I just think that you'd have on one wing. I can see Eddie going Corabetti on one wing and Tuasi on the other wing, and then Banks or Kellaway at fullback, one or the other.
Yeah, I think it's that wing and fullback spot are the question marks. The forwards is much more tricky. The prop sort of pick himself, Slipper and Alatoa, but I actually still think that our best scrum is Bell and Tupou. They just haven't played this season.
I wouldn't go Tupou, but I'd say Bell, yes.
And my worry on the weekend was watching Slipper and Alatoa conceding scrum penalties against the Canes. And I just think Bell and Tupou, that doesn't happen. But anyway, I think it is Alatoa and Slipper. I think they almost pick themselves, but I think our best scrum is Bell and Tupou.
Yeah.
I think Parecki is the hooker. The Rose, anyone's guess. Because none of those blokes are playing in Australia. Half of them are injured. It's a very hard sample size to pick from. I think it's, at this stage, it's literally anyone's guess. But, Neville and Frost certainly deserve to be in that conversation with the way they're playing. But it's tricky. The back row, Bobby V picks himself.
Hooper picks himself.
Hooper, probably picks himself. And then that other spot's a mystery. It looks like Jed Holloway for Eddie in terms of the leadership team. I'm not sold. But it looks like that's the way he's leaning. So something like that, I think, is the makeup of our team. And I think that 15 could give fits to most international sides if we're disciplined.
Semi-final, here you come, yeah?
There's going to be a dip.
Well, I've just been called that by someone. So,
I know. More of that.
All right. Thanks, Greg. So Brian's just said, isn't it McWright instead of Hooper? No, not for me. I just think...
or is it Wilkett?
No.
I think in a World Cup, Michael Hooper turns into the Terminator.
Yeah, I think he just adds an extra level. He goes that extra little bit. Yeah, it will be. I think I saw an article in the paper the other day. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Talked about potentially retiring after the World Cup.
Yeah, it reminds me of Pocock at the last World Cup. You get this sense that maybe the heart's not fully in it anymore, but you just know that at their peak, they're the best in the world at their position. And I think we get that at the World Cup.
And I think we've got to. Look, I'm probably wrong, but I think when we go back to the old position of a 7 being the only, in inverted commas, jackler in the team and getting over the ball, I think the way that international rugby is now played, everyone needs to be able to get over the ball, whatever position you do. So
not Quaid.
Well, definitely not Quaid. Love Quaid though, but just the fact that it's everybody's responsibility more. So the fact that he's not, in inverted commas, a natural or quintessential 7 doesn't hold him back as much as he was before. And I think to go back to the point, he does take a level up. He'll have a 7. He'll take it to the next level in a World Cup. Before
we go, and if there's any more questions, should we just do a quick run through of next weekend? Because I really enjoyed round 10. There's some genuinely competitive games. So let's have a quick squeeze into next week. So the first one,
just to let you know, Hugh, and we're also disappointed Jim didn't join by Zoom. Priorities again. He needs to learn.
No, he's going for the CEO job. It's the whole thing.
Oh,
he's got Politburo. He's got Secret Police, NKVD. It's the whole thing going on there.
Sure.
But next week, Richard, game 1, Highlanders Chiefs, back to not competitive.
I think Chiefs.
Yeah, by murder.
Yeah.
But, maybe they ran their race last week.
Maybe.
And the Highlanders are back home. It might be a little bit closer than it seems.
So, in a nutshell,
Chiefs will Chiefs. Drua Hurricanes. Drua haven't won a game for a long time. They started this season well. It's great to see them back at home. They're getting spanked.
Yep, next.
Skip. Crusaders Force. Holy moly. Force are paying $17. Add a couple of
$17.
$17 and $2
$17.
It's still not enough.
Gamble responsibly, but that's probably worth $1.
Blues, Moana Pacifica, $17.
That's not worth $1.
Probably game of the round, and it's a shame it's not a bigger deal. Red Stars, right now, Stars are underdog. That's free money. Don't get me wrong, I'm not sure that they'll win, but $2.50, I'd have them as favourites.
You heard it here first.
Not that I'd ever gamble, but at $2.50.
You don't know what you're truly losing. But I think going with it, the Tars should be favourites in this game. I would agree with that, and I want them to win, but as I said to you the other day, I could see them losing.
Reds put it together last week.
Yeah, they're up at obviously Queens. They're up in where are they?
Queensland Country Bank.
Yeah, which is Townsville.
Mate, the odds just changed while we were talking, Richard.
Oh, that's how much of an impact
that is the impact we have.
And last one, Rebels Brumbies.
That's a nice
I actually
finish
quite
the
like
weekend,
that.
those two games.
Rebels paying $4.30.
Yeah, that's not bad value either. They're still losing,
Yeah,
but you might get a good line.
Yeah, absolutely.
On that
All right,
one.
guys. Thank you so much for the people that have jumped on board today for the live pod. I've actually really enjoyed the chat, and the fact that you've given up your time to come and join us. Really appreciate it. We will send this out obviously via our normal platforms as well, but hope to do this again at another point because I thought it was a bit of fun.
It's more lively. I'm up and about.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, normally I hate spending time with you, but the live thing is really helped.
Oh, what a joyous way to end this evening and this afternoon.
Does anyone have any final questions?
Last call.
Last call.
No, I don't think so. Last call. I like Jackie said thanks. Abby, cheers, guys. I like this. This is good. This is nice.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks very much. We'll pause. All right. Have a good day, everyone. And,
cheers. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
it means
guys.
a lot.
Yeah, it really does. Thanks.